All right. Hello, world. Hello, everybody
Hello.
out there. Paul Tranny here with Chris Truini. Good to have you here, man. Here
Good to
in
be
San
here.
Francisco office.
Yeah.
Got After Effects and Premiere Pro guru extraordinaire. So it's good having you here, man. So yeah.
Good to be here. I'm excited.
You looking forward to this?
Absolutely. We have some pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, that's
think.
good. And I'm sure plenty of people might know you from YouTube, and I'm looking forward to today. Just even some of the stuff that I've seen in terms of just kind of just making things look awesome is kind of what I see. It's like, yeah, how do you make things look rich? And I'm happy that I think that might be the plan today.
Yeah, I'll play the little preview here so that people can get an idea of what there is. I don't know if they can see that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, gorgeous. Look at that. Let me do that.
Yeah,
I want to do that.
It's all very simple stuff. It's just thinking outside the box and how to use like even just solids, adjustment layers, and masks, and some very basic tracking. Like that's really all that is involved in all this stuff. But when you use it in different ways, you can really up the production value, I guess.
This is awesome. So where are you from, by the way?
I was born in Connecticut, but I was raised in Italy.
Raised in Italy.
Yeah.
I know we have Kishan from India and people from various locations. So got American citizen, but grew up in Italy.
Yeah,
essentially.
exactly.
That's awesome.
Oh.
And now just your home is wherever you end up. Like right now, you're kind of very in a transition stage.
It's a very it's
And
moving to LA soon. But
moving to LA.
Yeah,
awesome.
just been kind of going about and seeing what place kind of fits. We can start that over.
Yeah. You don't mind because it's gorgeous. So no, that's
running,
while that's running, I just kind of wanted to kind of talk to you and see where everybody's from. Welcome, Ashk, Kishan. I don't know where you guys are. Some people from India. If you want to do a shout out where you're from as well, that'd be
or
fantastic.
Even if you're from the channel, that would be cool to know. If people come from my channel over here,
exactly. Maybe you're a Chris fan. I wouldn't be surprised. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button as well. We'll be having some giveaways as well, which is super cool. So we're going to learn stuff. There's a chance to win stuff. I'm like, wait, is this real? I think it's kind of awesome. Mexico, awesome. Ukraine, good to see you guys. Germany, this is awesome.
Wow.
Canary Islands there. Oh, from Spain. That's cool.
Wow.
Ireland, India. This is what I love about. Again, we're live streaming. This is super cool. You're here in the flesh in the San Francisco office, like showing things. We're going to be answering your questions as they come through as well. So it's super exciting that we actually just have this ability to do this. So
The
Hong
internet,
Kong,
what a day to be alive.
the world. Colombia, love it.
Oh, Italy. We got someone from Italy.
Italy. There we go. Valentino, little shout out.
Ciao, Valentino.
That's awesome. So yeah, guys, this is really cool. So actually, that's not off. It's not refreshing.
Yeah. Okay.
But no problem right here. We've got this. Italy, another. Oh yeah, Valentino. There's cool. Poland, Romania. Awesome, guys. People from around the world. And he's going to deliver his presentation in all these various languages as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if you knew that. He's going to translate.
Just an
I'm going to
extra little
No, I don't know. We're not going to do any of that. Sorry, guys. It's going to be in English. I'm sure you can do some Italian as well. But considering our audience, super fun, man. So, yeah. I mean, look at that. So I'm like, man, I want to get into this.
Yeah.
I'm super excited. Oh man.
So that's pretty much our topic today. We're going to try to create these things. Pretty much create a cinematic look. And I kind of feel weird saying that because it's like, what is cinematic? I mean, it makes for a good title and some clickbait on YouTube.
Right? Did you just clickbait us?
Yeah, that's pretty much.
Did you just clickbait us? You clickbaited me, man, because I'm excited about this.
It's like, ooh, cinematic. How would you do that?
Cinematic. But you could tell just looking at that. That's how you made those. I mean, you made that content look rich. And obviously, do you have like a film background or?
Yeah, I went to film school in Florida to Full Sail University. Learned some stuff there, but most of it actually comes from YouTube and just other sources, just free sources from there. That's actually what led me to post the first tutorials on YouTube, is really the idea of, with internet now, you can get all this knowledge for free. You don't have to spend a ton of money to go to a film school like I did. I was kind of feeling depressed about that while in film school, like being in debt and all that. That's not fun.
Right.
So that's kind of what made me post tutorials on YouTube. I'm a great advocate for free education, strong believer in that. So that's kind of what led me to start a YouTube channel, and it all revolves around the idea to learn, create, and share. That's the motto of the channel. So essentially, like, be a good student in life in general. That's a good tip, I guess. And, and then create. Use what you learn to create stuff. And of course, you need an audience. Like, once you create something, you should share it. But sharing is also not just tied into what you create, but it's also on what you learn. So don't just hog that information and keep it to yourself. Share that information to other people, and so that's kind of my personal philosophy, but also what the channel revolves around.
Yeah, no, that's good, and I think that's how people find information. Honestly, is through YouTube. That's how you've done it, as well too.
Absolutely.
Like, we all do, and that's how people stumble upon you. That's why we're here today, is to kind of dive into this, which is super exciting. So you're saying what? This is free. This is free education you're giving us.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
Exactly. Yeah,
Awesome.
And some of this stuff I will try to maybe, depending on how much time we have today, I will do more in-depth tutorials in the following weeks about this stuff. So we're seeing, like, for example, right here, this is a sky replacement tutorial. I mean, we could try to cover this today or maybe on day 3, since we're talking about details. But we can take something simple as this in so many different directions. So there will definitely be a ton of new content coming to the channel as well for that kind of stuff.
And we're going to also try to convince you to start live streaming on your own channel, by the way. So if this is a good experience, by the way.
If this works out,
you're like, if people are kind to me, don't it's going to be fine, though. So awesome. No, this is good to see. So let's dive into this. Like, I'm sure I see After Effects back there.
Yep, there
we have it. Doing most of our work in After Effects today.
We are for all 3 days, actually.
Okay, fantastic.
We have, I kind of try to divide it in 3 different chapters. So today we're talking about lights and shadows. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about color, and day 3 we're going to be talking about details and overall. So, of course, After Effects is a post-production tool, so we're kind of wondering, like, how do you change lighting and affect lighting in After Effects after you've already shot something? It's kind of crazy to think about, but you do actually have some degree of things that you can change in After Effects. Now, I guess I have to say this, like, if you have a way of lighting your scene on set and doing things the proper way, you should always do it on set. Like, don't think, I just have After Effects, I can just, like, fix it in post. That's
fix it in post. Do you see? Is this knocked out, by the way? I think it is. It actually might be like you can see the stars through, and it's fix it in post, which you can. Which I love how that's the keyed green color.
Yeah.
So that was on purpose, guys. Just so you know.
Totally. Definitely planned
it. Love it.
Yeah. So. Take everything that we're doing today with a grain of salt. It's mainly just look at the possibilities and the techniques that we can do, and know that that's an option. And really, this is for low budget to no budget filmmakers out there. Sometimes we don't have permits to be in a location, so we can only take our DSLR and go in and be out really quick.
Get your permits, by the way. Just a little disclaimer.
Wink, wink. Yeah, but, definitely do that.
If you don't have a permit, I'm just saying.
I mean, there's budget limitations too. There's time limitations. In this example here, let me just make this a little bit bigger. A little bit of backstory behind this project. I was far too ambitious, and it kind of fell apart. I had 2 days to plan like a full action short film that was like James Bond style, and I had 3 days to shoot it. So it involved a shootout in a restaurant, a car chase scene.
Oh, really?
Just a ton of stuff that obviously, now that I look back at it, it's like, of course I was never able to gonna be able to pull that off.
I'm all for saying yes, but that's pretty ambitious, man.
I got most of the stuff, like some of the car chase scenes.
But you didn't have time to come in here and like light this and set it all up
that was
and worry
the main
about
issue
there's a smudge on the glass there or whatever those situations are.
So I really had to just use what was on location. So practical lights, like whatever was there, I kind of had to make it work. And so this is our after shot. So if I go into this composition and I just soloed this layer.
And then we're just kind of, okay, gotcha. This is the original.
This is the original.
What was this shot in? Like, what were you using in terms of equipment?
I was using Sony A7S, but I usually shoot in S-Log, which is great for this kind of work. But because I was pressed with time, I actually forgot to switch it to S-Log. So I was just shooting in the regular color space, like Rec. 709, which, I mean, it still works, obviously, because, we're we still have some room to make some adjustments, but
That's just amazing. I mean, just seeing that difference. So look, if you go solo that again,
Yep.
Obviously the background is lit way more than her.
Yeah.
So it's like,
yeah, and that's pretty terrible. I mean, it's not, you know.
it makes for a good example for us, by the way.
Yeah,
So thank
exactly.
you.
I mean, and that was due to the location lights. Had no lights to light my subject, and there was just these light fixtures on the walls, and that's the only source of light since it was also nighttime. And also these walls back here are like this really light beige white color.
Yeah.
So they're really reflecting a lot of that light. They're bouncing a lot of that light,
Yeah.
and it really makes the walls stick out instead of our subject. Even this guy here is more, it's like brighter than our subject.
Ponytail.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so that's the thing when you're thinking about something cinematic, and again, I feel weird using that term. It's very vague, but you want to make sure that you're guiding your audience's eyes to where you want them to be. So this is our subject, you know. In this scene, she's kind of like scanning the room. She's a spy, and so we really want to pay attention to what she's doing, what she's thinking, the thoughts that are going through her mind. Yeah.
Sorry.
To something that you will never see, unfortunately. That's pretty sad. But that's what's going on in this scene, and it's not what's really going on when you look at the before clip. Like, your eyes are kind of wandering about. Like, I can maybe make this bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're kind of looking at this guy. You're looking at the walls. You're kind of wandering about, and probably the last thing that you'll notice is our subject. I mean, of course, she takes up the most amount in this frame, so that's another good thing compositionally, like, to make your subject stand out. But lighting-wise, it's not looking too good. So,
Yeah, can you you're diving
and then
right
the
into
after.
it.
So
Boom.
that's essentially, you can see already that we've darkened the background. We've made her stand out a lot more by just highlighting her in a way. We're just adding a lot more luminance to her face. We've done quite a bit of a color shift. And actually, this might seem a little bit too saturated. This is actually the real final one, which has a few extra effects, such as this vibrance, decreased a little bit of the saturation, and added this plugin called Film Convert, which is something I really recommend. Definitely check out Film Convert. It's pretty amazing. I mean, I'm not sponsored
Sweet.
or anything.
Yeah,
that's a big
because
thing
it
on YouTube now. You
actually
have to-
sort of simulates.
Yeah, it
that what
emulates different film stocks.
Mhm.
So
There we
yeah,
go.
you can see like we have Kodak and all this other stuff
Yeah,
here,
very cool.
and you have control over the film color, the curve, and how much grain you can add as a bunch of like other options. But that's really the main part of this plugin. Really cool, and you can actually use this plugin alone to grade your footage. But that's as much as I'm going to say about that.
Yeah, no, this is great. And to think
But
that
it's
this is
a
actual
cool tool.
footage, like I want to do this to regular photo, and yet you have obviously this working in After Effects. Somebody does mention, speed grade or After Effects for color grading and color correction. Obviously, you're using After Effects.
Yeah, because like the whole workflow with, in this case with After Effects for color grading, is we're almost taking what's possible in Photoshop for pictures, and we're kind of translating that into After Effects for video. So that's kind of the whole idea behind that. So it's definitely time consuming. I mean, we're going to look at a few things that require a lot of rotoscoping. So, it does require a bit of time and patience, but at the same time, if you're low budget and you didn't have that time on set, this is a way of making up for that time. So that's a good way of looking at it, I guess. But it's
Do you
some of the
like
stuff is time consuming.
do you like Film Convert over Lumetri? Chance, or
Sometimes I
you
use
spent
both.
Okay.
So like when I'm shooting in S-Log, I'll apply like a LUT file that really make like certain colors stand out. Like and then I can just apply Film Convert over that, and just to have maybe the film grain. Because again, you can just have the film grain. I can just put this to 0, put that to 0, and now we're only having that layer of just film grain.
Yeah.
So it can be used either way. It just depends on preference, really, and what kind of look you're going for, and just.
Yeah, and the sort of the next step, wouldn't you say, is like speed grade? Sort of that's like next level in terms of, honestly, like control / a little bit more complexity. I
Yeah.
think people.
Definitely. I mean, there's so many different ways that you can take this. Right now, what we're going to be focused on in After Effects is just solids, adjustment layers, that sort of stuff. So it's like really more of like the adjustments that you can make to your scene, and then you can think of color grading as this separate thing on top of all those adjustments.
And then, so once you have this done, because I would think people would want to know this, I'd want to try to take some of these settings, sure, what I've learned, but maybe even some of the entire settings, and then apply to sort of other scenes or whatever projects.
As far as the color grading, you can do that, but with this sort of thing, obviously we're looking at masks and different things specific to the scene, but those techniques can be used for so many different things. Like some of the stuff will even seem redundant because it's just completely different shots, different environments. It could be an exterior or an interior, and some of the techniques are similar.
That's perfect.
But it's just a different way of
No, that's all I want to know. Like I want to take what I learned from this scene and be able to apply it to my stuff. Like making those adjustments. Yeah. And because you're talking about a lot about, you're going to talk more about theory and stuff, sort of when to make those decisions, but sort of the techniques might be like similar.
Yeah, and
some of the steps.
The nice thing about this stuff too is it can be very subtle. So you can have a good starting point. Like you've lit your scene properly, but maybe you notice that maybe I should have flagged off this light and it's spilling a little bit onto the back wall and it's a little bit distracting. So it can be very minute things like that and very subtle ways of kind of going in and making some adjustments. Or it can be something, completely drastic, like going from this to that. You know, like can really change the tone and the mood of your scene, really.
Are you going to start us off at like sort of 0, if you will, or or I don't know what the plan is, but I kind of want to follow along.
Yeah, absolutely. We're gonna first do maybe a little bit of an overview just to kind of understand the overall mechanism of what we're really going for, and then we're gonna really start from here and build our way up.
Sweet, man. Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, so if we have time, we'll. This involves like some 2D tracking, some basic rotoscoping, and then we can do maybe this shot.
I love this.
Yeah, this actually takes it a step further, but not really. I mean, it's still very simple stuff. It's just applied in different ways. But this involves some 3D tracking. And this one has, let's see if I go in here. It has the 3D camera tracker. Which sounds very intimidating. You see all these dots, but really, to get to this, it's 2 clicks.
For the lighting.
Yeah.
Is that so
for the lighting. So now you can create some more realistic. Well, actually, I should show probably the before.
Yeah,
so that's. Oh wait. Do I have something else?
It just took a second.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, can we go full screen with that and then like toggle between the two? Because again, another awesome example of.
So here it's like it's a little bit more flat. This is more of the subtle way of doing things. You can just add a little bit of interest to your shot without changing too much of it. So you can go from something like this and then, there is a big difference here. What I actually did is, I don't know if we'll have time to get into that, but I exported a single frame of this, brought it into Photoshop, and with like a brush, I just added a bunch of detail to the rock here. Even replaced the brick here.
Because it's a still camera. She's walking down that. Is that what's happening?
Yeah, actually, this is a moving shot, but
it is.
Because it's 3D tracked, let's see if I can kind of click through here. Okay, so I pretty much moved through the arch.
At what point did she get freaked out that you were stalking her?
Yeah, fortunately,
she's like, what is this? Like, why are you? Not only that, you're going to take the scene and make it look even more ominous and dramatic.
Yeah. Actually, fun fact about her, she's the same one as
same lady.
Our subject.
Awesome.
Yeah. She's actually a friend of mine, model. Definitely check her stuff out. Her name is Maria Gabriela Garcia. She has an Instagram under Mary Gabs. Actually, she commented, there she is. See Mary Gabs right there with the M?
Mary Gabs, G-A-A-B-Z.
Hello from Orlando.
Oh, hello from... awesome. So we actually have the model in the chat. That's fantastic.
That. That's amazing.
Awesome.
I actually wasn't sure how to spell that, so it's M-A-R-I-I-G-A-A-B-Z. And you can find her on Instagram with that. So.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, so she's the same... where did it go? Same one is here, and I think we have, in the following days, we have a few more examples with her in it as well. So.
Sweet, man.
Just a little background on who that is.
No, I love it, and you can obviously see the difference, and I'm
so the reason why it was 3D tracked is, again, the camera is moving, so you can't really just fake it by, slapping something on like a static shot. Here you have to do some 3D tracking so you can actually stick this sort of projection of a fake shadow to the floor and have it behave properly when you're moving in 3D space. Same thing with the wall here. Yeah, I'm moving through here, but at the same time, this is sort of like it lays flat. It's
like, sort of,
you know.
Yeah, it's attached because that's the separate sort of still image, right?
Yeah.
That you made in Photoshop that you're actually mapping to, those pixels and it's being tracked.
That's that layer right there. And that's what it looked like before. So it's like a little bit subtle. You don't see much of it. I mean, this was sort of a plain wall here, and I added a little bit of brick.
Yep.
And originally it's because I wanted to make it like a snow scene, so you can kind of see that I've painted a little bit of snow resting on top of each brick.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not really noticeable here, but it's just to show that you can really take these techniques and do anything. You can change the weather. You can. Yeah. It doesn't have to just be lighting.
Is it giving you a god complex? Because you said change the weather. Like
yeah. You can
controlling, like turning day into night and all this stuff.
You have the power with After Effects. Yeah. So hopefully we'll have time to look at this because I think it's a pretty interesting example since we move away from 2D and into more of a 3D workflow. Which again, sounds complex, but it's very simple. Like the 3D camera tracker, it's like one click. You select your footage, animation, track camera, and After Effects does all the work for you.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I actually couldn't believe
all those points.
Yeah.
These are points that you can target.
Yep,
right?
Exactly. And it's crazy how accurate it is. I mean, you can see how even just like you have this little target icon, and you can see that it understands, okay, this is a wall, and over here you can see this is the floor. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Okay.
It's just taking all these different tracking points into consideration, and also like takes account like
because you're on that layer. That's why is that the arch layer essentially?
Yeah. Okay. Actually, this is just the overall footage.
Oh, it's the overall footage.
It's just this. Yeah. It's the entire scene. It's confusing because it's like, how does this trickery work? It understands distances and what's a wall and what's a floor. So it's really. I was like mind blown when it was first introduced to After Effects, and it's very simple. So hopefully we'll get into that. We'll have some time for that. But let's go back to the restaurant shot. Okay, so I guess we could do a little tiny bit of theory just before we jump into it because, of course, you can know all the techniques in the world, but if you don't really know how to apply them or when to use them, it kind of defeats the purpose of knowing that. Something that is going to be reoccurring in these different videos is separation. So today we're looking at separation with light, so how to pretty much separate your subject from the background. Tomorrow we're going to be looking at a little bit of separation with color, so how to add focus to your composition by using different types of colors. So we'll get into all that tomorrow. So mainly with lighting, one of the basic ways of adding separation is by adding a backlight. So one of the big blockbuster movies that comes to mind is like Inception. I don't know if you notice, like all of the characters most of the time are like outlined by this really strong backlight. So the backlight is pretty much a light that you place behind your subject, shooting at it, and it creates this, it highlights it, creates this hard edge. Okay. Yeah. I mean, again, it all depends on the story you're trying to tell. I really have to put a lot of emphasis on that because, I mean, you have to serve the story. That's really what makes something cinematic. And, I mean, it all depends on taste. Like, for example, there's Gordon Willis. He's an amazing cinematographer. He's nicknamed Master of Shadows. Plays a lot with that, but he's strongly against backlighting, unless it's like motivated by something, of course. Like, you know, if you have some strong motivation for a backlight, then sure, but otherwise he thinks it's like a lazy way of adding separation between a subject and a background. So he actually does something completely different, which is something that we'll also try to kind of emulate in this example.
And what's his name, by the way?
Gordon Willis. So Gordon Willis, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, there's a ton of great cinematographers. I mean, you even look at Roger Deakins. He's, I might be sidetracking here a little bit, but he did The Godfather. I actually did a video breaking down some of those lighting techniques. Like,
oh, really?
For example, in The Godfather, all he did was add, I believe it was like a China ball or something, like a one source of light placed above Marlon Brando's head. And what that did is it started casting some pretty heavy shadows around the eyes.
Oh, really?
And that served the story because humans connect by looking someone in the eyes, and they can understand emotionally what they're going through. A lot can be revealed by just by someone's eyes. You can easily establish a connection that way. But in that example, you can even see it in the poster there. Like he's, the audience is deliberately shut off from that character, so you don't really. His
becomes eyes are in shadow.
Yeah, they're like this black menacing thing where his actions become much more unpredictable because you really don't know what's going through his head. So I mean, that goes to show how deliberate and specific and detailed lighting can be, and how it can completely affect the story you're trying to tell. So those are all things to keep in mind. And again, you don't want to think about that stuff when you're in After Effects editing your work. You should think about all of that in pre-pro. And everything that we're looking at today is just a way to, again, facilitate that and kind of move around those limitations that we have with budget. But it shouldn't be an excuse to be like, oh, I'll just, figure that out later once the shooting is all said and done.
Yeah, and it's not like a one setting applies to all, basically.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Like you're doing it based on sort of whatever story like you're trying to tell.
So that's something really important with today and the following days. Like, yeah, I'll be showing you these techniques and how, for example, in this shot, we're making the background darker and our subjects stand out brighter, but the story could make you do something completely different. I mean, sometimes, for example, separation isn't necessarily a good thing. Like, let's say, for example, maybe our main character feels overwhelmed by his environment. Like, he goes and works in an office and he's bored with his life and everything sort of kind of fades in together. So maybe you actually want him to blend in with the background, sort of show how the environment is kind of like oppressing him. So
yeah, I mean, you're setting a whole mood.
Yeah,
so that's what. Yeah,
exactly, and it's really tricky. I mean, so definitely just take these techniques and put them in your own personal knowledge database, but don't necessarily think that, oh, to make something cinematic, I have to do this. To make something look really nice with colors, I have to use orange and teal. I mean, I'm gonna have a whole rant on that tomorrow, probably.
I know. I figured we'd get there because I knew it, and
it's
that's fun.
Yeah, it's a safe way that studios will just color grade something to make it feel blockbustery, and a lot of people do it, which is fine, And I mean, orange and teal can work too. There's a lot of different scenarios where, let's say you have this exaggerated moonlight coming in and you have a fireplace. Okay, sure, orange and teal could work. So I mean, again, everything is. It's so hard to pinpoint what you should do and what you shouldn't do in filmmaking, and sometimes in visual effects, there are no rules. It's just guidelines. So you can take them, flip them on its head, and you can do whatever you want. It all depends on what your story is.
Okay, so night scene. Are you going to start from something sort of just a blank sort of you're going to start with this raw footage? Perfect.
Yeah.
So what I'm doing, just so you know, I don't know if you could switch to my screen real fast, because I'm actually using After Effects, and I'm I kind of want to follow along. So essentially, I'm actually just using Creative Cloud libraries, and I'm just searching.
Cool. Yeah.
So I could just search sort of Adobe stock in here. So I could just indoor scene, woman, or something like that. I'm just doing a random, but I'm just gonna pull. I could pull any one of these in. I could pull this one in just for fun.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure, it's just a small, but again, this is just the comp for me to do my color grading, and kind of follow along that way. So that's why I'm encouraging everybody.
That kind of has some of the same issues that this one has.
Okay.
If you take a look at that, it's she's kind of blending in to the background a little bit, just because luminance wise, we're not seeing too much difference from the subject in the background. So very same nature of issues that we have. That's a
Yeah, I don't know. I was just powdering your nose.
Oh, okay.
I think.
And not that way. But.
Does she does she have her nose in her hand? Is that her nose that is she putting her nose on? What's going on here?
That's such an awkward
I don't know. It is, but it's perfect because again, it's this whole mess of things. I don't know where to look, and I want to have the focus on her, whether I use this image or not.
This is actually pretty great for what we're going to be talking about today, which is color and how there can be some distracting colors. I might be skipping ahead here, but if you look at that, are we streaming this screen?
Yeah, currently.
Okay, perfect. So you see how this red, that little mirror thing or whatever, plastic thing, that's pretty distracting because it's a red that really pops. And it's sort of the same principle as what we're looking at today. It's just you really want to guide your audience's eyes to the subject or really what goes on. But again, that could also not be true. Like in horror movies, sometimes you maybe want to draw attention to the background. So your subject is doing something, but then something really creepy happens, and you want to make sure that your audience doesn't miss that. So maybe the opposite can be true. I don't know. There's so many things that are contradictory, but I guess it's a good place to start to take a look at how we can make a background darker and make our subject stand out by it being brighter. So that's something that, going back to Gordon Willis, that's something he does also with his cinematography a lot, and it's a technique called chiaroscuro. And I'm not just saying that because I was raised in Italy. It's actually like a lighting term, and it means bright and dark. And essentially that's what this is. So it can work both ways. You can have a dark background and a bright subject, or vice versa, so you can create some silhouettes and that sort of thing. And that all plays a role in creating some separation. So again, this is our before and after. So we know that to get from here to here, essentially what we want to do is separate anything that is close to the camera, so anything that is in the foreground, and separate it out from the background so that we have full control over what we can do. So unfortunately that does require some rotoscoping, which is painful and annoying, but luckily we're going to look at a few ways that we can make that process a little bit less painful.
Yeah.
So you can see here, we'll just do a basic overview of this scene. We have just a general kind of mask for the table here. We have this is some other guy that's off screen, so let's see. Okay, we have the waiter here. This is a good example of what needs to be done.
Rotoscoping.
Yeah, lots of rotoscoping. Now, something that can again make rotoscoping a lot less painful is by doing what I did here, which you kind of assign a mask to individual parts. So especially when you're rotoscoping people, those are tricky because let's say someone is standing at a table like this, and you can create a mask around them, kind of outlining, but then people move and they have limbs and heads and things. So if I start pointing at something, well, that becomes an issue because now you need to figure out how to redistribute those points to fit that arm stretching out that wasn't initially there. So that's kind of the idea with kind of assigning different masks to each limb or each object. So you can see here
And did you do that all manually then? All those
yeah, all manually.
Outlines.
In some scenarios you can probably use the Rotobrush tool, but one of the main issues with the shot was how the lighting was kind of flat and kind of blending together. So that might cause a little bit of issues with the Rotobrush since there isn't enough contrast for it to understand, okay, this is what I'm looking at and this is what the background is. So to avoid that, I just kind of just created some masks. But to make that process a little bit faster, what I did is I actually tracked some of the subjects. So for example, for our main subject here, again, you can see the same thing going on. So we have a mask for the head, a mask for pretty much the torso, and a mask for the hand.
It's like any of the parts that are going to be moving, right, essentially, as her head rotates.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And something that I did for this to kind of make things a little bit quicker, is this the null object? I think this is a good time to mention labeling. You should always label your stuff so that you know what is what. But so this null, I remember now. This null is pretty much tracked to her body. So this kind of makes things a little bit quicker because if you do some basic 2D tracking to whoever you're rotoscoping, at least the mask will just follow its general movement, and then you only need to do some subtle adjustments here and there instead of going frame by frame, and like moving the mask and doing all of that. So that's something that can speed things up. Another great thing to do is using Mocha. We won't be doing that too much in these videos just because I want to like stay completely in After Effects, and even though Mocha comes with After Effects.
Yeah.
But I mean, you have just a lot more flexibility with Mocha because it takes into account more like perspective. So that's something that can definitely be useful for rotoscoping. So overall, you can see what's going on here. It's very simple stuff. Like you just rotoscope whatever's in the foreground, separate from the background.
What is and I don't know if you can or maybe you walk me through this or whatever, but a question here from Stephen Eli, who's like, what is root scoping? I don't know what root scoping is, but we can talk about rotoscoping.
Yeah, rotoscoping.
No offense. There we go, roto. He corrected himself.
Oh yeah, there it
Good
is.
man. He knows what's up.
I actually
so
know
and
that
even
guy.
how you like, I think I just created a mask, by the way. So I just have that set up. So is that all I do, or what's the next step if I
Yeah,
wanted
pretty
to,
much.
like...
Well, obviously you run into the issue that the mask needs to follow the person,
Mm-hmm.
but really that's all you need to do. So going back to Steven's question, rotoscoping is just cutting things out in a way. You can, if you ever had like magazines and newspapers and you kind of cut things out to kind of paste them together and do that kind of collage, that's kind of what rotoscoping is, but with motion added to it. So you have all these points that create the cutout in a way, and then obviously you have to animate those points in time so that it follows whatever you're trying to cut out. And I mean, rotoscoping is used in visual effects all the time. If you have to have a subject standing in front of an explosion, obviously if you don't rotoscope that subject to be separated from the background, you know, After Effects is not going to know that that explosion is supposed to go behind that person. You know, in a way you have to tell it just by cutting that person out. So hopefully that kind of... Oh, there's a comment saying rotoscoping equals animating a mask frame by frame. Or every other frame, or
that
just...
totally works.
That works. So yeah, that's what went on, and we can start taking a look at some of the effects that went into, let's say, for example, just the background. So I can turn these off and start talking about them little by little. So this is our background layer without any effects. So we're still seeing the foreground elements being cut out with their own type of effects, but essentially you want to darken this background, and I even did a little bit of a color shift to make the background a little bit warmer, kind of playing back to the idea of adding separation and adding separation with color, but I'm going to touch on that a little bit more tomorrow. So let's start with brightness and contrast so you can see what that does. It's very subtle, and the reason why I decrease the contrast a bit as well is to kind of play with the idea that there's a little bit of haze in the room. And the reason why I want that is because actually a lot of the pros, a lot of the cinematographers, they always, or a lot of times, they spray a little tiny bit of haze into the room. Not enough for you to notice like, oh, there's like smoke or something burning, but just enough for the light to behave differently. So it almost acts as like, you know, if you have a harsh light and you put some diffusion in front of it, obviously that changes the quality of light and how it scatters about your, you know, your subject or your location. So haze can do the same thing, and that's a really cool low budget trick, because let's say you have some daylight coming in from the windows, you know, and it's creating some pretty harsh shadows. Well, you can just haze the room up just a little bit, and that can go in, you know, varying degrees. Obviously, you can have some volumetric light coming in through the windows, or you can have it just enough where you have that more diffuse quality. And also, again, going back to separation, a little bit of haze takes out essentially contrast from the background. So obviously whatever is closer to the camera will have just a little tiny bit more of contrast than what is,
Yeah, so, and this might be a case where, like, I would think if you were following trends, and we'll talk about teal and all that stuff later, but some people might throw blue back there.
Yeah, that goes to the orange. There is no blue in this shot. Yeah,
so
yeah,
it's like, hey,
it's that orange
there's
and,
Superman, let's just call him Superman. You could throw blue in the shot, because that's essentially what you did, is you mapped the white to that
exactly.
orange.
If I activate this tint, I can change that and go to blue. Well,
boom.
That's maybe like that.
You guys happy? This is what live streaming is all about. On demand, making things happen.
Yeah, I mean, this looks pretty terrible. Just because there's other adjustments.
It looks way cut out, and she's not.
Yeah.
She's not even in that scene anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that's the thing. Serve the story, and also serve what makes sense in that location. Like, why would there be a blue background in a restaurant? You know, like we're always dealing with warm lights. So, I mean, but that kind of plays in to the whole idea of the orange and teal look and why I hate it so much. It's like people almost expect that, you know. It's like cinematic means that, oh, you have to have orange and teal. Otherwise, it's like, what are you doing? You know, you're being creative. But that's a whole other rant for tomorrow. But It's a good point though. Like you definitely want to make sure that you are not just serving the story, but also motivating your lighting. That's a huge thing. You can make something look really pretty with lighting, but if it makes no sense, it's like, where is that backlight coming from? Where is that kicker? Why is there, like the key light? Why is the key light blue and the other side green? I don't know. It's just, it could work. Like maybe there's a neon sign in the shot, or maybe there's a lampshade in the background that kind of gives this orange kicker. So you can still get some pretty images, but they also need to be motivated with what's in the scene.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's see what I had here.
And
previously.
I mean, there's no. So yeah, there's not a fog machine effect in After Effects, although I wouldn't be surprised if it could. But essentially, that's what you just tinted the scene. Essentially, that's how you had the haze.
Yeah, and just by brightness and contrast, like one of the simplest effects in After Effects, made it a little bit darker, -40, and then took out a little bit of contrast at -82. Like that's all it took.
Yeah.
And actually, in day 3, when we talk about details, we're going to look at how to add real fog, like make it noticeable. So actually, I have it. We can have it right here.
Oh, there we are.
This is the example where we will have some real fog. And again, I mean, it doesn't make sense if I don't show the before. This is the before. So I will talk about this in day 3, and it follows the principles that even earlier on in cinema, like with, for example, Akira Kurosawa, he would have a static shot, so not much going on, it's just a tripod shot of characters doing whatever in a scene, but it feels big, it feels cinematic, it feels dynamic, and that's because he would always add all these atmospheric elements, so dust and wind and things moving, and obviously blocking plays a huge role, but even just atmospheric elements like dust and smoke. Obviously, again, when it's motivated, like, you don't want to have a sandstorm in a living room between a conversation between 2 people. But for something like this, for example, this was again from that short that never got finished. We got this amazing location. This is actually the Duomo in Ortigia in Sicily. We got fun story. I don't know if we have time for this because I'm going to ramble about it for a second. But it's I almost got arrested here.
No.
Because we got permits to drive the cars in there, but we didn't have permits to use guns, like prop guns.
Oh.
So someone called the police, and we had 3 or 4 police cars rush in, guns drawn.
Did you get it filmed? And did that make?
Yeah.
Did you? It would be awesome if it made the.
Yeah,
there's
going to be there's going to be a behind the scenes, maybe for this unfinished project, just to see what worked for this and what didn't. And I will definitely include that because it was pretty scary.
Yeah, man.
And actually, in the moment, we were actually just wrapping up the shot. So I was just picking up things like tripods, light stands, all this stuff, and I was also picking up the prop guns. So in my mind, I was like, oh, I'm just picking up a tripod, picking up a light stand, but really I had an AK-47 and a rifle. So when the cops actually came, and you can see this in the video, I'm walking towards them with guns, thinking that they were tripods. Not fun. I had a lot of explaining to do.
Oh, man.
But yeah, that's where this is from. A little bit of backstory to this. But if I unsolo this, we can see a difference. It's subtle. I mean, you can see a little bit of fog, a little bit of that. And actually, some of the fog layers are tinted to be red. And I even added some... It's better if I just do back and forth like that. I exaggerated some of the red by tinting some of the fog, and maybe I even added like just a simple red solid, set it to overlay, added some masks, feather it out, and it just exaggerates those taillights, but it also adds this interest to the shot since we have a little bit more red and it's just not just beige and black. And it works for this. This is like a standoff between our protagonist and the evil guy, like the antagonist. So having red, like danger. Again, this is all stuff that we'll talk about tomorrow because there's so much meaning that you can associate with colors and so many metaphors that you can throw in there just with colors alone. So it'll definitely be really cool. I mean, like Evan said earlier today, it could be a whole language on its own.
Yeah.
And it's true. Yeah, you can definitely do a lot with colors, with lighting. So exciting stuff. Let's go back to our original example.
How would you
here.
just real fast?
Yeah.
There's a question here about how you'd add haze when shooting. Like, how do the how
you
do
can
directors do that? They
you
don't-
can just get a haze machine or a fog machine. You can go to Party City and pick
just
one.
a touch,
Yeah,
just
and
like,
you just do a
touch.
few bursts. And usually, what you want to do is have like a large
You don't
piece
have-
of something and just kind of flap it around.
Okay.
And you want to make sure that it kind of settles and spreads around evenly, because otherwise you can, even if it's a little bit of fog but you don't spread it, it looks like smoke. Like you can actually see a little bit of it forming in certain areas. So
Okay. I'm gonna have to start looking for that. I've never really noticed.
it
but
makes all the difference. I've started
Okay.
using it after this project, and it really makes things feel higher budget and
just by
yeah.
Wow. Okay. So I was thinking it was sort of the depth of field that
I mean,
they,
that-
well, I'm
that
sure that had something to
also,
do with
yeah,
it.
yeah.
But yeah, that's interesting.
That's the thing. There's so many different elements, and I mean, this could be one of them. It's just how much detail you really are willing to put into a shot, and of course, the more thought you put into it, and the more strategies you decide to use when lighting and tackling a shot, obviously, the better results you will have. And that's something I also want to mention when using these techniques and fixing the lighting. It's always good to start with like a solid starting point. Like, don't get comfortable knowing that After Effects can fix all your mistakes. Like, even just having one LED light, which is something that's pretty portable. You can add some batteries, and you can have something this small and carry it around, set it up real quick. So even something like that, you can do some really amazing lighting with just one light. Go back in history, look at some of Caravaggio's paintings. I mean, the stuff that he did with one source of light is incredible. More recently, you look at some cinematographers. A lot of cinematographers really love just using one light. One of the basic things that you start learning in lighting is three-point lighting, so how to use three lights. But I guess once you know how to do that, you can also effectively kind of, dumb down your lighting and simplify it and get amazing results. If you look at Sicario, for example, there's a lot of scenes in there where it's just one light, and Roger Deakins, he used reflectors and different ways of shaping that light and bouncing that light in the scene and create some really stunning and amazing stuff. And it's all by using one source of light. So in low budget, that could be even a window. You can use a window. You don't have to use lights. It's all about also how you block the scene, where you place your subject. So, you don't need money. You don't need a lot of money. You don't need a gaffer and a bunch of grips and to rent a bunch of lights and have the best camera. That's really what I want you to take out of this. Like, yeah, we're going to look at techniques to fix a lot of stuff in post, but when you're on set, don't feel discouraged by your limitations. Like, that's actually an even better way of thinking outside the box, and it's more motivation to really get creative and I feel like it makes it more special to say, like, I had no money, had one light, and this is what I was able to do.
Yeah, I mean, or any permits.
Or yeah, exactly. So, okay, I guess we can start with let's see if everyone's on the same page. Like, I think everyone.
Yeah, I think everybody's pretty good.
Probably.
I don't know. That very Racketeer.
Yeah, I think we can start with maybe looking at some of the rotoscoping and.
Well, yeah, and I'm
tracking
kind of
techniques.
following along. Again, I just grabbed something from Adobe stock.
Oh, perfect. Yeah,
I
that
just
works great,
framed
too.
something out.
Awesome.
Just sort of as a sort of like a starting point, and I'm just gonna do what you're.
So that's a
gonna do.
video, or that's an image?
This is video. Yeah. So essentially, yeah. So you can see it here.
Perfect.
This is the only part that I've done. So I haven't done any rotoscoping, but you can
So
kind of see I pulled
that's
this
interesting. So with that, we do have a little bit of camera movement, which, if I remember correctly, we do also have camera movement in here, but same techniques apply. So these are actually very similar scenarios.
Perfect.
Okay, so I guess I can start by. This is clip 15. We'll start complete from scratch. Footage. Clip 15. There we go. So I'll just drag this to make a new
Boom.
comp.
Make a new comp.
And we'll.
Pro tip.
Yeah.
I don't know if people know that or not, but anyway.
We'll find like a good starting point, which I guess is when this waiter comes in. And a cool thing to do, you can also, like a cool shortcut is hitting Shift Command D on a Mac, and that kind of splices layers. So I use that pretty much all the time, and then you can find
It duplicates. What does it do?
it kind of splices it, so it's like it creates a cut.
Oh, I
it's
see
like,
what your cut point.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
And
perfect.
I think we won't be focusing too much on the second guy, so I guess we can stop here. you can again splice it, or you can even just end it there, but you can always delete these this extra stuff that we don't need. Drag this to the beginning and go to the end here, and you can drag this in, or you can just hit N on your keyboard, and that pretty much brings the end of your work area to where your timeline indicator is.
Okay.
And then you can right click on the work area, trim comp to work area, and now we have just a nice space to work in.
So. I like that. Right click, trim comp to work area.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that. I didn't know you can do that.
Yeah, it's very cool
extract.
when you don't want to have a huge timeline, or so you can just dial in your attention to what you want to do for this shot. So this is what we're starting from, and one of the first things that we're going to do is some very basic tracking, and again that plays into the idea of taking a little bit of the workload off of your own shoulders. It's like kind of creating a little bit of animation just by using some of the tracking information that we can get from this shot, and then you can play with the mask and adjust it a little bit better and make it follow your subject properly. So to do that, we're gonna right click just in this area, and we're gonna go under new, and we're gonna create a null object. And by the way, if any of this stuff starts to feel a little bit too advanced, you can always revisit this video later and go to I have a playlist on my channel which is 10 videos that really take you from knowing nothing about After Effects to feeling pretty comfortable with pretty much any other tutorial.
Okay.
So definitely
cool.
don't feel intimidated if this feels
Is it
a little
Crisco
too
Art?
fast. Yeah, Crisco Art Productions.
Okay, I'll post it in the chat.
Awesome. Yeah, it's Kriscoart. And also, just feel free to ask questions. Like if I'm going too fast or anything, just let me know. I think there was a good question. Someone said good question, Caitlin, but I don't see the.
Caitlin, so why would you do this in After Effects as opposed to Speed Grade?
Oh, so it's kind of what we were talking about earlier. It's tricky because there's a few basic functions of After Effects that kind of elevate color grading. So it's not just like doing an overall grade on a shot. We're doing tracking. We're using solids. We're using all of these different things to really fix only certain areas of your composition. So I feel like it's a little bit more advanced, where you can just worry about certain details of the shot and make it look right to your eyes, and then you can apply the grade later. That's kind of what we were saying in the beginning. So you can make all these adjustments. Like if there's something that pops too much in your scene, you can track that. You can make that less distracting by adding an adjustment layer, doing some track, and we're going to look at some 3D track too. So some kind of advanced features that are not necessarily in most color grading applications. I know what's the name of it from Blackmagic. I can't think of the name. DaVinci. Yeah, thank you. I don't know why I couldn't think of it. They have some tracking features, but again, it's nothing near as advanced as what we're going to be doing here. And I say advanced, but really it's simple stuff. It's just advanced as far as what the software can do. But really for After Effects, it's very, very basic stuff, just applied in different ways. So definitely don't feel intimidated by that. But that's a good question though. Like you can even make these adjustments and then bring whatever result you have and bring it into Speed Grade, bring it into whatever else you want, and apply a color grade or any other type of corrections from that point.
Yeah, and that's I think sort of the learning curve of that. Like being an After Effects user, I would like to learn some things in After Effects, and then I can take that to Speed Grade if I want to.
Yeah,
that's a whole other profession almost. Right?
Yeah,
Well, it
yeah,
is.
Exactly.
Essentially. So I'm already playing multiple roles just like you are.
Mm-hmm.
Let me be, basically a color corrector. Or,
yeah, absolutely. That's the whole. You can set up whatever
Color
workflow
grader.
works for you. I even take those steps and I stay in After Effects just because I'm so comfortable with After Effects. Instead of using any, like leaving the application. Because I always don't like jumping from one software to another. If I can like limit it and stay within one or two, like if I can make my edit in Premiere, dynamic link whatever shots need a little extra care and bring them into After Effects. And if I can just stay there and maybe use like Adobe Audition for audio, if I can use those three and have that as my main workflow, I'm pretty happy with that. And of course, you can add as many plugins as you want. I use Magic Bullet Looks. Some of you guys probably know what that is. again, you can add like film convert earlier. There's so many things that can really expand the capabilities, especially for color grading. Because obviously I don't think After Effects was envisioned for color grading, but that's a cool thing about After Effects and all the possibilities it has. Sometimes you think, oh, After Effects is to make explosions and that sort of visual
Which
effects,
it
but
explosion, the explosion. No.
yeah, but I mean, so there's different applications for it. It's all about using those tools in different ways. So back to this, we have our null object here, and essentially what a null object is just something that you don't see. It's just like a thing that can contain information, and in our case, it will contain the information from the tracking data that we get from our footage. So to do that, we have to select our footage, and I have my tracker window already over here, and if you guys don't have that, you can go under Window and check the tracker window here, or another way to do it is go under Animation, Track Motion, and that will do the same thing. It's just gonna open this up, and
there we
that's
go.
the idea. So what we have here is a tracking point, and if I click on this, it kind of magnifies, and it allows you to search where you can place this tracking point for a good track. Now, before I place it, a few things to keep in mind when doing this is, I think you get the camera tracker.
Yeah, I did.
I mean, that could work too.
Ignore what I'm doing.
Okay.
I'm glad my screen is not being shown. His screen's what to do, mine's what not to do. Because it's analyzing the background.
Yeah. So, well, for a 2D track, we'll get to 3D tracking. But for a 2D track, the main thing is you're telling After Effects, this is what I want you to focus on in the scene, like this little dot or these few pixels, this very small area, and from there you need to follow the motion of whatever is in that shot. So ideally what you want to do is have an area in your image where you have some high contrast. So like, for example, you can see here she has this like overall thing. I don't know, this thing that you put over the shoulders. I don't know what it's called.
Like shawl or something.
Yeah, that thing, and it has it has some holes in it, which is great because the shawl is black, and obviously her skin tone is a lot lighter than that, so it creates some good contrast.
How did you get into this dialogue, by the way? Did you just double click on the layer?
No, with the layer selected, you can go under Animation, for example, Animation, Track Motion. Yeah, and there you go. Now you have that little the same box that I'm having here, and then from there you
Animation, Track Motion, and now I can point to. So if I want to track, because you're tracking a very specific.
Yeah, with 2D tracking you can do that. And another thing.
What makes you pick the shawl though?
It's because if I re-click on this and I magnify it, you can see that right now I'm in this like very defined circle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're doing it right now, but see, for example, you're just selecting hair, and it's not ideal because there's not a lot of information there for After Effects to understand.
So
yeah. So you want something like, sometimes the eyes can work, but if they blink, then that can throw it off.
Okay, so something with a lot of detail that doesn't change, like a blink. Like I wouldn't really do her watch. I could, but I want to track like her shoulder. Maybe there's enough pattern there.
Yeah, exactly. So that was kind of the thought in this. Cool. I want something that will confuse After Effects the least amount. Like, not confuse After Effects. That was some weird wording. But once you find that spot and you're pretty happy with it, you can just simply hit play on here. And that will track, but we're going to run into an issue very soon, and you're going to see if it doesn't freak out on me and just... By the way, I'm using a MacBook Pro, but it's from 2012. So
I like it.
If it's slow, like sometimes it's weird. With the new update, I have to like stop the track and play it, and then it will stop itself again, and I'll do stop and play. That's something probably just specific to my computer, just because it's really slow. So just have to keep doing this. Now here we notice something interesting. His hand moved in front of what we were tracking, and that completely confused After Effects. It's like, whoa, what is this thing? I was looking at this specific area that you told me to. Now this hand moved in front of it, and I'm completely confused. No worries, we can fix this very simply, at least for this shot. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna completely ignore that. We have this little timeline indicator here for our footage. I'm just going to move forward just a little bit. And this is something specific to my clip. It could be something completely different for you guys. Once his hand cleared the tracking area, so right now you can see that we were tracking this circle over here. So once his hand moves away from it, the instant it does, you can just bring this box back to where it should be. So, you're telling After Effects, don't worry, it's just over here. Yeah. Ignore that hand, and just hit play again. And it will just, continue off just as it did before with no worries. I'm just going to finish up the track here. Okay, that's good enough. We can stop it there. Now, something I really want you to notice here is in this dialog box here, it says motion target, and it says null 11. So if we look at our timeline, null 11 is that null that we created originally. So that's exactly what we want. But if it says something else in your box, or maybe you forgot to add the null in your...
Where's that?
Right here, motion target.
Null 11. Null. Yep.
So let's say you forgot to create a null, and maybe you're just creating it now, and some other layer that makes no sense appears there. You can just say edit target, and there's this drop-down window, and you can select what you really want it to be. So in our case, that's the null, which is fine.
And of course, the motion source is your footage.
Yeah, exactly. So once you're happy with that, you just hit OK. And I guess while we're here, I can mention that you can also track the rotation and scale of something. We don't really need it for this because she's not rotating, and she's not really moving closer or further away from the camera. Or with just in a regular situation with tracking, you could have this issue when you're zooming in. So then in that case, you would need the scale tracking information as well. So for this is fine, just the position. So we're happy with that, and we can just hit apply. And this box will appear, motion tracker, apply options, apply dimensions, X and Y. You can just hit say OK to that. And now we can close this window because we are done with the track. So a few things will happen. You can see that now we have a bunch of keyframe informations here, and this is our tracking information. But if we select our null, you can see that we have a bunch of keyframes for the null as well. So essentially the null will stick to the shoulder, and it will follow our subject now. So a cool shortcut, if you have a layer selected, you can hit U on your keyboard, and that will review any keyframes or any property that's animated.
Type that in the I'm going to type that in the chat because that's the best thing ever.
Yeah.
I mean, you should just know hit U, and it's going to reveal all your keyframes.
Yeah. I should do a video just on keyboard
tilde
shortcuts.
Key. I really like the tilde.
Tilde key, yeah. It's my favorite keyboard shortcut because you can pretty much full screen any work area of After Effects as well as Premiere.
Premiere.
Yeah. Actually, maybe even Audition. Well, I think you do that with most. But anyways, the tilde key, it's that squiggly thing. It's like a squiggle. And
we'll maximize the current window.
Exactly.
Because I noticed the timeline gets kind of messy. You want to go full screen with that.
Especially when you have a lot of layers and you're trying to find something, or even in your project panel, and you're like, okay, I need to go through this footage. Let me see what I have here. You can just make more room. And this is a lifesaver when you're working with one monitor. Hopefully, once I get settled in LA and I have my own space, I'm going to have multiple monitors because that's just it saves a ton of time, and you can just have your project bin in a monitor, you can have your timeline in another monitor, and you can it's a lot better. But if you're traveling, you have a laptop where you can't have multiple monitors, the tilde key is definitely a good workaround for that, and can make your work a lot easier. So one thing that we should fix before moving forward is that little bump that we received. So you can see here, it's not really resting on the shoulder, but that's fine. Like, the only thing that we care about is that the motion is accurate, which it is, except for when you can see here, like, let me just zoom in a little bit. You can see this mess right here of keyframes that don't really follow this like smooth trajectory, and that is when the arm of the waiter or even the bottom of the glass starts kind of going over the area that we were tracking, and it just freaks out. So very simple fix for this. If we zoom in and we can hit this little mountain icon here, we want to go back to the first problematic keyframe, which appears to be this one right here. So we can select this and hit delete, and let's go a little bit forward and let's see where it starts to behave well again, which is, seems like it would be around here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just delete all these keyframes. And by the way, to do that, I'm just clicking and dragging, and you can see how they turn blue.
I like even jumping from keyframe to keyframe because I saw you holding down the Alt key.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Command and the arrow keys. That's actually just going frame by frame. But since there's an animation for every frame, it looks like I'm going from each keyframe. So I can select those, they become blue, and I can hit delete. And actually, a cool little thing regarding keyframes, you see these little arrows on either side of this keyframe icon here. If I click here, the timeline indicator will jump to whatever keyframe is on the left hand of the timeline indicator. And if I click the other one on the right, it will just jump to the other one. So that's a neat little trick, especially when you're doing a lot of animation. It can save you a ton of time. So essentially what we did is we deleted all those keyframes, and something interesting happens. We can see, if I play this, you can see that the null object still kind of follows that same. Actually, I should probably delete a few more of these. Just delete those. Okay, there we go. So you can see that the null object still kind of follows a certain type of animation. It's not like if I delete those keyframes, the null object is just going to freeze in time, and then it will continue as soon as more keyframes pick up. Because what it's doing is it's pretty much averaging out whatever space is in between this keyframe and this keyframe, and it's just pretty much just tying that motion together. So for this, it works. I mean, if you're doing like a more specific track, then maybe you want to do a better job. But for what we're trying to do, like this works plenty. So okay, so that's we have some pretty good track. It's a good starting point, and now we can start the rotoscoping process, which I will only bore you with this for just a little bit because I know how intense it can be. So one thing that I like to do with rotoscoping is creating a new solid and having that solid become the track matte for in this case the subject that we're trying to rotoscope out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this layer, hitting Command D on the keyboard, and so this can be our background, and we can rename this BG, and this is our subject, for example. So what we want to do here is, with the solid selected, this will be our track matte. It's good to name stuff. And oh, you can also notice that I turned the solid off by hitting on this eye icon here. And what we're going to first do is I grab the pen tool, and I am just going to pretty much just follow the outline of our subject here. I'm going to disregard the face and hair for now, and just go around the shoulders and close that off. So now we've cut out this solid, and it kind of follows the shape and the torso of our subject. But we're not really interested in this red solid. We really want our subject. So what we can do is go under track matte. And by the way, if you don't see these options, there's a button down here that a lot of people miss a lot of times. I don't know if you can,
or move a.
Or actually, I could probably just move After Effects up.
I can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's got it. Boom.
Perfect. So this button, toggle switches/modes. You can toggle between that, and it will reveal different properties. So if you're not seeing what I'm seeing, definitely click on that button, and you'll see this track matte options. So for our subject, we can click on this drop-down window, and we can select the track matte solid to be the alpha matte. So if I click on that, we're not going to notice any difference, obviously, because we have the background on. But if I turn off the background, we see that now we have our subject, at least the portion that we rotoscoped, isolated from the rest of the scene. So it's pretty much just the track matte layer, the solid, is telling the footage, hey, just be contained in this outline, in this shape that we created with the mask. So one thing that you can do then is, and I promise it's almost done because I know this part is pretty heavy to digest.
Stay with us, everybody.
Yeah.
Like, this is huge. I mean, how many times have you applied these masks, track masks?
Oh, so many. I'd use these for so many things.
Yeah.
It's like the foundation of everything.
Yeah, so this is important. So you have that track matte that's mapped to the null object.
So now, yeah, we
you're
can.
about to do that.
Yeah, we can
Sorry.
pick whip the track matte, and we can tell it to follow the null object. So now, with this selected, you can see how now it's just following the same motion as the null. And it's not perfect. You can see how it kind of slips away in the shoulder, but that's fine. You know, at least the general motion is there. And then it's just a matter of doing what you usually do with rotoscoping, which, you know, you go and hit M on your keyboard with the layer selected. You set a keyframe for the mask path, and then you can go maybe here it starts to slip away, so I can just add a keyframe there, and then make some subtle adjustments. So I can grab this point, bring it in closer, grab this point, bring it in closer, and so you pretty much just want to make these adjustments all throughout, and then you want to create other masks for the head, every other limb, and blah blah blah. So if everyone's on the same page, I'm just going to skip this painful rotoscoping stage.
No, that's good. I'm glad you are, but I do have a question, by the way. And just, newbie here in terms of rotoscoping. Because essentially, look at, did I do this right?
Okay.
So look at all my keyframes. Is it supposed to be on this layer of the video
go on
footage?
maybe on the null. Select the null object that you have there, and maybe hit U. Okay, yeah, so you do have some keyframes. Yeah,
okay,
perfect.
Cool. Okay.
So you have all the information there, and
perfect. It's a matter of, ideally drawing that shape. And again, this is just kind of recap.
Yeah, you could either make a track matte with a solid, or you can just apply the mask directly on the footage. But the reason why I like to use a solid as a track mask is because then you can just pretty much parent that entire solid to the null object, and then you can just focus on the mask individual, the mask properties individually. So that's why.
Which is exactly what I'm doing here. So essentially, here's my shape layer, just like you have. Essentially, right? Your track
same thing.
matte,
you can use a shape layer or whatever works.
Right.
Yeah.
And then point to
the
this
null object. So now,
right, directly, just like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Boom.
So now that will follow that null. If you scroll through here, it should.
And she's not. I think if I go back. Let me zoom out a little bit. So it is working, actually.
Yeah.
Let's she's not moving a lot. So right here she is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You guys get the idea.
That's the
perfect.
principle.
That's
though,
the basic concept. Of,
yeah.
It's kind of like she's censored. She does.
Yeah. It's like maybe she just has holes there, and we're trying to censor that area.
All right.
Family-friendly
She's
show.
in the witness protection program as I make this larger, but essentially I could make that larger and it will still follow.
Yeah.
Follow
so already
her
there you can see how
adjust
you can apply that to so many other
position.
things. It's using these techniques, and we're choosing to do color grading, but it can be that. It can be just blocking someone's face out. So it's those techniques,
just made it
and yeah.
Sorry.
So if I go back to the original example, fast forward in time, you've spent all your time tracking and all of that. You end up with this. So you have pretty much just a general shape for the table here, because it is in the foreground. So it's just like this feathered general area. You have you have this guy, which we don't see. We have the waiter, so we have the hand. And again, I tracked him, and then I also kind of follow his movements and all that. And then we have our subject. So
yeah, and that's awesome. So you've done a lot of work, obviously, with these various, track mats and everything. But so, I mean, are there cases where you'd use Mocha or?
Yeah, Mocha would be preferable, just because it takes into account more of the perspective change. So it's less work on your part as far as animating the mask. But it would probably take a lot more time, because it's like, almost a software on its own. So
It's kind of like the same equivalent with speed grade. You know what I'm saying? Like in terms of, we can do a lot of things just directly in After Effects. If you want to take it, again, to the next level, you could use speed grade, you can use Mocha and all this stuff. So it's perfect.
Exactly. So that's the painful part. If we stuck through that, that's pretty good. It's like the most like boring part of anything like
It's your
visual
life.
effects.
This is kind of like where you're getting paid. Is like, okay, pushing pixels around, outlining people.
That's
it's
the less
awesome.
glamorous
Once you have it
part.
set up, then you're like, okay, now let's light this.
Yeah,
baby.
it's like I just want to make it look good, but you have to go through these steps, unfortunately. But it's pretty rewarding in the end because you do have a pretty significant difference. So okay, so we have everything separated out, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn all of these things off so that we can just pretend that we're. Let's see, I'm going to turn all these effects off.
And we have about 35 minutes.
Oh wow, time does fly.
Yeah.
That's insane. Okay, so we're starting with pretty much as if we rotoscoped everything out, and now it's time to apply the effects, which is the. Oh, someone says really don't understand. Let's see.
Oh,
it's in regard to another question, I think. Why Adobe buy good software for discontinued them? Oh, so it's something not okay. I thought it was something regarding the thing here. Yeah, not sure.
Yeah.
But so back to this, we have everything rotoscoped out, and now it's time to add some effects. So we can start from the background because that's what we were originally doing. So we added the brightness and contrast. Actually, these are still on. So okay, we add brightness and contrast, and we added the tint effect, which is what we looked at in the beginning. So brightness and contrast again, bring the background darker, take out contrast for that whole haze idea.
Mm-hmm.
Then you add some tint, and you just make the background a little bit warmer. So that's, again, just to add a little bit more of separation. And then, of course, you can add anything at that point. So I even added like a slight little tiny bit of camera lens blur. Mm-hmm. This is something really cool if if you want to get more of that depth of field. This is how much control you have once you separate things out. Mm-hmm. So it's a
like
very
after
simple idea.
doing all that work of outlining everything and masking things out.
That's why it's worth it. It is painful. You have to sit there, rotoscope, but then you have all of that control, and you can make subtle changes, you can make drastic changes, you can completely change the tone and feel of a shot that way. So after that, what I did is I added this dark red solid, and I placed it below our foreground elements. So this can get confusing here because you have to think in terms of layers. So what's in front and what's behind. So over here we have all of our foreground elements. So we have Maria, which is our subject. We have the waiter. We have all of that stuff. So pretty much whatever layer is underneath these will appear to be behind them. So that's why this dark red solid, I can even make my point even more by moving this around. Mm-hmm. You can see how that's not really affecting her. It's just affecting the background.
Yeah.
And just a side note about vignettes.
Obviously made layers, right?
Yeah.
Just like in Photoshop. So it seems to make sense.
Yeah, exactly. That's the sort of workflow that you have to think is just in terms of layers and doing what you would do in Photoshop, but in After Effects and with video. And that's why there's rotoscoping involved, and that's why there's motion tracking, because it's a moving shot. Yeah. So we have this subtle vignette, and it's the same. What I did to create this solid, actually this is a good point to make, I guess, if there's enough time. If I right click here and I say new solid, I'm going to use this eyedropper tool, and I'm going to go in a really dark area of my composition, such as here, or this could work, or he can work here, because if I just create a black solid to create vignettes,
it changes the solid names, like solid.
Dark red,
from dark red to dark orange.
Medium gray orange.
It's
cool.
Dope.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah. So the reason why I'm doing this is because if there's no true black colors in the scene and you start introducing them afterwards, they don't really fit. So you just want to stay true to your shot, to a certain degree. So by doing this, you can click on that, and that gives you a color that's actually present in your scene. And of course, you can make it darker, but at least you have a starting point of something that makes sense to your scene. Yeah. So you can click OK, and then click OK again, and that creates a solid. And it's pretty cool now that you see it here. You can see just how much, these elements are separated. Someone said vignette is so uncool. Actually, I was gonna have a side note on that, and I agree completely, because when there's a lot of tutorials on YouTube that will slap a really harsh vignette, and it doesn't make something cinematic. Because actually, if you look into buying a lens and you look at reviews online, they'll say, they'll look at chromatic aberration, they'll look at how sharp it is around the edges, and they'll look at vignetting, how, if that lens actually has some vignetting to it. And if it has vignetting, that means it's usually cheaper glass, so cheaper lenses, which obviously doesn't translate to being cinematic.
Yeah.
But if you apply it in a very subtle way, it's all about that balance, then
and
it can...
Yeah, like you said, I think it's a way to kind of focus the eye. Obviously, people have used
absolutely.
it wrong, but so
in this sense, it's more like it's the lighting doing that effect, rather than just having that overlay slapped onto everything.
Slapping it on, a landscape scene where it's just like there's no way.
Yeah, exactly.
That
it's
vignette
like,
really makes a lot of sense.
So that's the idea here. You can scale this solid up, and you can go to the ellipse tool, double click here, and then you can set that to subtract. And then you can hit F on your keyboard with that solid selected, and you can just feather it out so that it's. You can also set it to overlay.
You subtracted it, you reversed it.
Yeah.
So you had a solid. And
instead of having a circle, then you
Okay.
You subtract it, and then you feather it out.
You just did that in like 3 steps, like really fast, which is awesome, by the way. So
that's true.
There's your vignette.
That's how you create a simple vignette, and then you can set it to overlay. So it's a blending option for it to kind of fit in the scene a little bit more. And then of course you can hit T on your keyboard. That's for opacity. That's another shortcut.
Classic.
Yeah, that's some good thought into that.
School that's been there for since it was COSA After Effects in the very beginning, guaranteed.
So you can make that more opaque, less opaque, depending on what works. So that's how I created that vignette. You can make it very subtle. You can make it more extreme, depending on your stylistic taste, I guess. It's all very subjective. So I created that vignette, and then I created another one on top, just to add like a little bit more of that dialing the attention in. But again, I really want you to notice how it doesn't really look like a vignette. It's just a subtle way that it could be like, like light falling off in a certain way. It doesn't look like there's a black circle that was applied to it and feathered out, and so be very subtle with vignettes. Be very careful, because vignettes are so uncool. To quote that guy. And then at the end, for the subject, curves. So we brighten her up a little bit. And if you haven't used curves, just a very quick rundown. This area of curves is usually the shadows and the darker parts of whatever you're trying to affect. This is the midtones, and these are your highlights. And this is true for the RGB, so that's your luma value, so your brightness essentially. And then you can go into the individual red, green, and blue channel, and you can have the same type of adjustments.
Can you actually work on the image so you're able to select colors while in curves?
Well, you can go on the red channel. Maybe you can make her from another planet.
But see if you can, I'm just kind of curious, because roll over this image, just like move your cursor over. Can you select colors that way?
Oh, and apply it to the curves.
You might be able to, like, what's that? Oh, the pencil's for drawing.
Yeah, it's still within this.
Okay, cool. I was just kind of curious, because
that would be cool. Actually, I've never really looked into that.
I mean, just for Photoshop users, you could do that, and I don't think a lot of people know.
In Photoshop,
go over the image and say this color, brighten it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So cool.
So that's what that is for.
She was a zombie.
She was a zombie. Now we're bringing it back like this. But all I did is really just went on the RGB, and I just give them midtones, which is usually where the skin tones fall under. Gave that a little bit of a boost so that we have more of that separation. And then just a quick side note here for Magic Bullet Looks. This is one of the plugins that I mentioned in the beginning. I added this effect within Magic Bullet Looks, which is called Cosmo, and I want to show you what that does real quick. If I turn it off, turn it back on, turn it off, it smooths out the skin. That's what that's doing. So if you have a female subject, for a glamour shot like this, trying to make her look pretty, obviously, something like that could work. I mean, there's other ways of doing it within After Effects, but this is like a quick little one stop.
Like clarity in Lightroom. The clarity parameter in Lightroom.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
for skin tones.
Yeah.
Actually, like back in the day, cinematographers were hired under contract by the main female star, and certain stars like I don't know,
say their
Monroe.
Names, but they will. Maybe they can.
Marilyn Monroe. No, not recent. I don't want to get into that.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't want you to get in trouble.
Yeah, but they would actually require the production to hire a certain cinematographer because they were happy with how they looked on film. So
That's
those.
still the case today.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
It's still, but back then it was more obvious because
Yeah, you would
it would
see
cut to the guy and he's like, all these harsh shadows,
Just
and
like-
then her, it's just like she's glowing, like.
And hazy.
Yeah.
Like, there's some film on the
Yeah.
to a degree.
Actually, they would
but-
put Vaseline sometimes. They would put like stockings, like what do you call them? Like the kind of transparent things that
stockings.
put on legs. Is that what
I
it-
don't. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I don't know.
Help
Well, that
us
thing
out.
over the lens. They would have all these weird tricks to make the skin glow and all that. Well, that's what this is essentially.
Without so it smooths out the skin, but it doesn't get rid of any of the details either.
Yeah,
'Cause I
no,
noticed
exactly.
She still pops, by the way.
Yeah, because this actually has a skin finder, so that I can do this weird thing where it understands what.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, to a certain degree, obviously, it thinks that this curtain is skin, but
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't matter because that curtain is it's blurred out anyways by the depth of field. But what really matters is that what is in focus is actually considered skin, so you can see that it's you can kind of play with that until you get a pretty good pretty good feel of
Yeah,
that.
I like that. Okay, cool.
So that's just a quick side note with magic bullet looks and some of the things that you can do in there. Pantyhose, nylons. I think that's what I'm.
Nylons.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
The nice thing is
That's-
we don't have to use those anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
yeah.
not going to be a selection in here. So,
Yeah.
nylons, and then it just
It's
gives
like,
me, a
drag and drop
haze.
that effect, and it's
Yeah,
like
I don't
yeah.
know.
So that's the beauty of After Effects. So that kind of covers the main thing that went into this shot. Some of the basic color grading that I slapped on top, that kind of creates a big difference.
Let me see that. Yeah, because you just turned on this adjustment layer.
Yeah, this adjustment layer was off. So to create this adjustment layer, really quick, just new adjustment layer, and you create an adjustment layer. So adjustment layers are really cool. I don't know, what learning level everyone is at, but essentially adjustment layers is something that is a container, and whatever effects you apply to that adjustment layer, it will affect everything below it. So really cool way to just add an overall grade, that sort of stuff. And the same thing is in Premiere. You have adjustment layers in Premiere, so you can do individual color correction on clips, and then you can just apply an overall grade with an adjustment layer in Premiere. So a really, really cool tool to have. So if I turn this on, this is just my overall grade. And so this ties into the earlier questions about speed grade and all that stuff. At this point, you've done your adjustments, you've made your scene look a little bit nicer in terms of like the actual lighting, and then from there you can export it, take it wherever you want, and apply a grade.
So
that's
whether
what I
you're
did
using
here.
an adjustment layer or using speed grade, like either one. I mean,
Yeah. Oh, I love these comments that are coming in. There's like someone saying why Christopher Nolan is still obsessed with celluloid film. I have no idea. The same thing can be done digitally. Well,
Yeah, well, I don't know.
okay, that's a whole other topic. I could have
think
2 hours for
probably,
that, but
yeah.
it's
we'll
a
argue
different
till
quality.
one.
Like not as far as what is better or what isn't. It's just it behaves differently and it looks differently. It definitely has a particular aesthetic look to it. So again, it comes back to what works for your story. I actually shot a project on film, and I really wanted to shoot it on film because it was a bank heist in the 1940s, and so it's kind of a gritty story just because it's a bank heist. It's not a pleasant thing to happen, and also it was back in the day. So how do you give that aesthetic quality so that it looks kind of vintage, it looks kind of old? Well, shooting on film is a great solution for that. There's just different applications for film. If you're doing sci-fi, maybe digital is better. It just really depends on what you're going for and what kind of story you're trying to tell, which is like the overarching theme of this live stream is like story comes first and then everything else kind of follows. So that's something to keep in mind. Will this look even better on Final Cut Pro X?
I don't know.
No.
Yeah, I mean, if you use, you go. I don't. You're asking the wrong people for one.
Oh no!
but
I have strong feelings about that. I would say
I'm an Adobe person. You go ahead. You talk.
I would say no. I would say burn that. If you have it, just there's the trash.
Adobe didn't say that. But
No, I'm saying it, and I don't. We were forced to learn Final Cut Pro X in school, and
Oh yeah, that's a great
not
idea.
a fun time.
totally well, and this is good. Like, we're trying to stay away from any controversy here.
Yeah. Oh,
I think this is a good
I'm all for that.
chance to take a little break because we are going to do a giveaway. Let's do that, guys.
Yeah. That's
First
some
of
good
all,
timing.
Thanks for hanging with us. To subject change. All right, name the software we're using right now. The one we're using right now on our screen. So all you have to do is say After Effects. Essentially, I've already given you the answer. Oops. But yeah, just show your appreciation. That basically lets us know that you're tuning in and paying attention, because those are the people that we want to give a 1-year Creative Cloud to. So that's fantastic. So just say After Effects. Put that in the chat. After Effects. After Effects. After Effects. Maybe not a lot. It does not increase your chances the number of times you do it. But
there you go.
And then we're gonna run this. It's a big machine over here that we just like lots of little dials and knobs and
it looks
and
very
things
alien.
that like steam, pumps out of it and.
Oh,
yeah.
so they're getting specific too. After Effects CC 2015.3.
Oh wow, Thomas, I do hope you win just for being so specific.
That's effort. That's real effort.
I like AE, man. That's cool.
Oh, pro now. So people are
man,
adding.
We should have asked a question next time. We're gonna do a trivia question.
Oh yeah.
Later, because I got a good one.
That's true.
Just FYI.
Actually, I
give
guess
it up.
it'd be a good time to see if people have any questions, because we did cover a lot. It doesn't seem that way, but there's.
They're just like hell bent
they're
on
still
winning.
Yeah.
All right, the machine's working.
Yeah, they're like, we don't care anymore.
Entering
We just
in your
want to
name
win.
by saying After Effects. Honestly, we'll take AE. If
For
you
about a year
throw
now,
Premiere
we'll
Pro
be
in there, hey,
helpful
we're happy to see
if you
that.
named
If you're like,
effects
hey.
more like how the effect is. Age is looking for.
I could probably catch it here.
No, I think I got most of it. So. Oh, please put vector scopes in After Effects. That's a good
Vector scopes?
That is a good question.
All right.
Is it time to go? Yeah. Oh.
Well, we do have.
Color Finesse, even though it's the light version, has vector scopes and all kinds of ways of metering luma values, color, all that stuff. So when we talk about color tomorrow, there's going to be a ton of that. We're going to look at the full interface of Color Finesse, and it's going to be really cool.
And that's built in, isn't it?
It's built in. Yeah,
so it's
essentially
extra,
a plugin that just it's kind of like
Mocha. We essentially purchased.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, built it in, and
as far as the light version, which is still, really what you need for most applications.
All right, looks like we have a winner. The machine is done. It spit out a big name, and it is Leslie Topno. Congratulations, Leslie Topno. Hopefully you're in chat still and didn't step away, because we want you to say yay with some exclamation points. That'd be fantastic. Leslie Topno, congratulations, 1-year Creative Cloud, which is, it's like everything. After Effects Premiere Pro, we talked about Mocha, Cinema 4D Lights, like all this stuff that we throw in there that we don't get to talk about a lot, just because people might not know of it, to be honest with you.
Especially with Cinema 4D.
Character Animator, if we jump in here, it's all this stuff. Hey, you know what? Character Animator, Hey, what about Cinema 4D Light? Boom, it's right in there as well. So congratulations, Leslie. We're going to get in touch with you. And again, my name is Paul Tranny, and you can always get in touch with me if there are any issues. You can find me online. So let's switch gears, and hopefully we answered that question. We still have, this is good. We still have 20 minutes.
Perfect. So if we do have any questions on this, because this is, I promise you, everything will move a lot quicker in the following days. This is just really, it's hard to digest, because there's, it's the foundation of everything that we'll be doing in the next few days. Like we talked about lights and shadows, but we're essentially taking these techniques and using different effects, but really still doing some rotoscoping, still doing some tracking. But now that we know how to do all that stuff, we can move a lot quicker, and we can look at different ways and how color plays in. And
Leslie.
Is she coming up?
Yes. Or he.
Looks
like a.
Oh, it's a he.
It's hard to tell.
I think it's a he.
Tell. Leslie.
Thanks,
you know what?
Thanks. Awesome.
Whatever you're doing.
That's
congratulations. That's awesome. So we're gonna get in touch with you. I just like that. That's a cool profile picture. It's man, I was just want to hang out with.
That's
him.
a profile picture.
That is a that's a literal.
That's how you do it. That's how you do it.
I love it. So congratulations. We'll be in touch with you, and we'll write your name down. Cool.
So I guess
Color
we can
Finesse.
do.
You applied Color Finesse. That's what I'm doing. The same
Finesse.
thing, just making some things happen.
Then I did some basic tint just to warm it up a little bit more. Some vibrance, some shadows and highlights. This is a cool little thing. You can see the before and after. It brings up a little bit of detail in those shadows, and it's an interesting thing to add do it subtly, but it can also almost fake a higher dynamic range in your shot. So there's all these different things that you can add a little bit of color balance too, just to you can see what that does. Pretty much just taking away some reds and some greens in the shadows, as well as the highlights, and then maintaining those values pretty much the same for the midtones. That's something that I forgot to mention, and I will mention tomorrow when we talk about color and color grading. Skin tones are really important to preserve. You know, like you don't want to mess with people from makeup department or even the actress. Like you don't want to change skin tones. So that's something that we're going to really focus on.
That's like it gets into being controversial too.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
yeah. You definitely don't want to mess with that. You want to keep skin tones the way, natural looking, the way that they should be looking, and that's something we're going to look at with orange and teal. How do you create that drastic change where the background is super blue and but you're still preserving the skin tones the way that they should be.
Yeah, and I know you have. So you're talking about there's also vibrance in there, which you've boosted.
Yeah, vibrance. It's weird because I boosted it here, but then in the final one I re-added it and I gave it another more boost and I subtracted saturation.
Did you ever do that? You added in one setting and subtracted it in another.
I think I kind of just forgot.
No, or you just take that. Hey man, we've all been there.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. So like
vibrance is cool. It's a cool effect.
The question is, it's like what's the difference between say vibrance and saturation?
Essentially, what vibrance does, it kind of makes, I guess, the weaker colors in your scene stand out more, whereas saturation is just the overall saturation.
It's like indiscriminate. Really.
Yeah, exactly.
And it seems like vibrance won't turn her orange.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
It won't blast her out. And,
yeah. So that's why I decided to add a little bit of vibrance. So maybe we can have those curtains and some of that red detail stand out a little bit more without affecting too much of the skin tones. So again, this all varies depending on what shot you have, but these are some of the effects that I have here. You can just do a lot with just some curves, some tint, some vibrance, shadows and highlights, color balance, and all of that. And then again, you can use color finesse, which you can use that or use curves, but the added benefit of color finesse is that you have vector scopes and all of that extra metering that can really it's like a second pair of eyes. Like you're seeing what your footage looked like, but you're also seeing kind of more of the, I guess, unbiased values of what that looks like. And if you're doing broadcast, that's really important because there's laws and regulations for that where you can't have highlights clip, or you have to be in within a certain range. So that's, if you're doing work for that, but it's a good idea to do it regardless. We'll get into that tomorrow for sure. We're gonna get into a little bit of color finesse and
it's good having you guys on here. I know what's Movie Boy. Yeah, so you obviously know what's up. So it's good having you here, just talking about, because it is a very artistic touch that you're kind of adding. You're making these artistic decisions and what looks good, and still keeping in mind standards as well as respect for the subject matter or whatever that may be, right? So it's all artistic stuff.
Yeah, it's very subjective. That's the thing. It's the whole idea is grab these techniques and know that these options are there for you, but you can use all of them at once, none of them, one or two. You can use different techniques, but it really all depends on, again, story and what your shot really would requare. Sucks that we didn't have enough time to move into this other example because I thought this was.
You can go as far as
we could do. I guess we could do a basic rundown, see how far we can go with this, because some of the principles are the same, but instead of doing some 2D track, we actually did some 3D track of the entire scene, and then from there we're able to kind of build our scene. And there's a little bit of
got a camera. 3D tracker camera. That's essentially
that's you select your footage, go on there in animation, track camera, and it literally does all the work for you. It just takes a little bit of time to analyze your scene, and then from that it solves an actual 3D camera that has the same movement, same motion as the physical camera that you had on that day. So that's magic. It's kind of crazy how you can do that in 2 simple steps.
Yeah, it's awesome. And even speaking of 3D and that tracking information, you're obviously mapping things to that.
Yeah, that was the whole reason why we did it in this example is so I even added some atmosphere, and these are just some like fog layers, and in some of the examples I used just like this resting fog or smoke, and you can separate them out in 3D space so that when your camera is moving, you can actually see the smoke kind of fly through and fly past. I also added some dust elements, some particle effects. They're very subtle because it's a 20% opacity, but if I bring it up, you can see these dots, this dust particle. And when the camera moves through, you can actually see that you're moving through these dust particles and everything. And I mean, they're all flat assets that you just separate out in 3D space. So that's the whole idea with this one. And then again, once you have all that tracking information, you can go and, let's say, pretty much click on the floor here. Or, yeah, there we go. And you right-click, and you can say Create Solid and Camera. So now you have that solid that if I scrub through here, you can see that solid is sticking to the floor. So not only that, but now you know the exact position, the exact coordinates of where that solid is resting in that specific area of your shot. So then you can add an adjustment layer. And what I've been doing with this whole example is pretty much just creating, let's see if I can say this one. This is a 3D adjustment layer. And what I did is I copied the position and the orientation of this solid, and I pasted it onto the adjustment layer. So what that does is it pretty much, you have this adjustment layer that's 3D, but it's kind of floating, in space somewhere that doesn't really know where to go. And now you're pasting that information. You're telling it, no, go exactly where that solid that we created in that specific area is, and that will just place that adjustment layer on that surface. And then from there, you can do a bunch of cool stuff like,
yeah, I love that.
Creating this fake shadow that's being cast by this arch.
Exactly. This is so interesting. I
mean,
and even your difference between this scene to the final one, using the 3D camera tracker to adjust these colors and use lighting. I know we're gonna get in more into 3D later. I think. Well, actually, Vincent's up in 20 minutes. Actually, at the top of the hour. So he's going to do some scripting, but tomorrow he's going to do some 3D work. So essentially we'll take this to the next level. But I think it's cool that you're covering using 3D elements from a lighting perspective.
Yeah, and I mean the techniques are exactly the same. You're pretty much just drawing lights, you're drawing shadows. You can see all these panels
being tilted based on that 3D space, right? Is that kind of what's going on?
Exactly. You see that this is the floor, so you see that this is laying flat. You see all these different atmospheric elements and all this other stuff. So that is pretty much what's going on here. I wish I had a little bit more time to kind of go and build this with you guys from scratch. But, I mean, if you stuck through the beginning, it is with 2D tracking, but the same techniques are applied. I mean, you know that the 3D camera tracker pretty much does all the work for you, which is amazing. And then from there, you have all this information. It's just a matter of, playing with that and placing 3D layers in different 3D spaces.
So we're not done, and I don't mean to cut you off, but I also do want to remind people about sharing their work as well. So even if you did, like I just took some Adobe stock footage, but essentially share whatever you make, your content on Twitter. Adobe, the hashtag is Adobe Live, and you can win your chance to win your Creative Cloud. So if you didn't win it earlier, then that's your next opportunity too as well. It's just applying some of the stuff, what we've learned to.
I would love to see that stuff.
Their own animation. And honestly, when I said animation or video footage, this could just be like a straight up image, and they can, obviously there's so much you can do in After Effects in general. So.
Yeah, you can take this so many different ways. Again, it's just the same techniques. Again, this example is redundant from the first one. It's just a matter of using those same techniques in a different way. So instead of with a flat 2D track, you do it in a 3D track. So obviously it's a little bit more complex just because of, you're dealing with 3D space, but really it's the same thing. You create these solids, you create these adjustment layers, and with the pen tool you can just, like to make this shadow here, if I select this, again, simple effect, brightness and contrast, applied to an adjustment layer that's laying flat, flush with the floor. I grab the pen tool, and I just cut this.
And then you inverted it.
Yeah, set it to subtract.
Feather
it out.
Can you show me this?
There we go. Yeah. So this is the mask.
Inverted. Okay, there we go.
And then what this mask is doing, so I have this mask set to intersect. If I delete this, you can see what that does. It's covering the entirety of this adjustment layer, which we don't want because, you're seeing the edges. It's spilling onto the wall. So if I hit Command Z to undo that, now we're saying, subtract it, but only stay within this area. Yeah. And I create a little bit of this shape, so it's almost like the light is kind of almost hitting some of where the wall is intersecting with the ground. I mean, that's all up to you and how you take it from there. But that's really what those masks are doing. And once you do that with the floor, you can do the same thing with the wall, and with the top part of the ceiling here. So many different ways of just applying those same pretty much basic effects. Cut them out, apply them wherever you want. That's the main thing from there.
No, it's perfect, and it's just amazing how different it makes your content look too.
Yeah, this is. I mean, it's not a big difference, but it's drastic enough where it adds that visual interest. It's like, if you see something like this, you can skip it, you can skim through it, and not really notice it. But this is a lot more. Well, if we take out that random solid that's just there, okay, this is a lot more interesting. It just captivates your attention a little bit more. Yeah, that's true.
And you could do snapshots. So essentially, do you ever use that very much? Snapshots?
Yeah, at the bottom there. Yeah, you can use that even to do that whole thing that we were saying in the beginning, where you can take a still from this beginning point and then bring that into Photoshop and paint in some light detail. We're gonna look at that in day 3. You can bring some elements into Photoshop and create some fake light just by using some brushes and creating all this extra level of detail. Bring it back into After Effects, track it back into your scene, and you have
and
all that.
I think we should talk about looks as well. Sort of, using, and we can get into that more later because maybe I'll learn something too. Who knows? But essentially, using Adobe Capture, being able to capture the colors and lighting of a scene.
Tomorrow we'll definitely look into that.
Good. Sweet.
Because when you're building a color palette, we'll discuss all of that, and it's incredible how you can just you feel inspired by something, you can capture it right there with the app. We're also going to look at a website that I think Adobe manages, which is Adobe Color. Yeah. Like spelled cooler.
Well, actually, we changed it though. By the way.
Really?
But yeah, it's if you go to color.adobe.com.
Oh, okay.
So it actually stuck more, in your head when it was with a K.
It's cool. Yeah.
But essentially, that's what's going on.
Yeah. So we're gonna look at that tomorrow as well. We're gonna talk a lot about color harmonies, a little bit of color theory. So we're gonna kind of shape it like how we did today, where we kind of think the strategy of what we're doing, and then we show. The kind of
good. So I don't want to get too much into that, but super cool.
Yeah, I'm excited for that tomorrow. It's gonna be great.
I'm tempted to go off on a tangent here, but I gotta stop. Oh, you can show the hype video. Is that what we have?
Yeah. I could just.
And we'll close out with that, or I don't know what else you got.
I don't know where to find it. Oh, here it is. So in some of the preview that you were seeing in the beginning and that I posted on my channel, you see a lot of the shots that really have a lot of color theme. Even this one, we're looking at some complementary colors.
Oh, the scene's moving. It's shifting a little bit, so there's a little bit of tracking, maybe.
Yeah, a little bit. We did a little bit of tracking.
You need it, maybe you don't.
Yep. Here, day 3, we'll try to cover this fake higher dynamic range. So how to color grade this without blowing out the sky or losing too much detail.
How do you have detail up here?
Yeah, as well as in the sky. So we're gonna fake some higher dynamic range. Here we're going to do a full sky replacement, so it's very easy and very quick, but it can make all the difference if we have a boring just blue sky. Here, we got the orange and teal look, and here is going to be another thing related to color theory. If I show you how this shot looks like, and you'll see this tomorrow, it looks really bad, because this is actually like a strong purple and pink. There's all these really spots of random colors, and it's really not very pleasing to look at, but now tomorrow on day 2, we'll see how to
just painted
completely change that.
Seriously, you just painted it like an artist.
Actually,
I can only imagine.
I really want to show how that looks like.
Yeah, man. Because that's sneak preview. We got 3 minutes.
Got 3 minutes. That's enough time too.
It was good.
Let's see if I go under.
Stephen Eli really likes how you explain things.
Oh,
with great
thanks,
charisma.
Man.
Very, very helpful.
Awesome.
Steve, I want to can we like that comment?
Yeah.
I want to
there it is.
Put that in the
blue.
Folder when you're feeling down and depressed. I'm like,
that's what I do secretly. That's what I do. This is what it looks like before.
Okay.
Pretty nasty. We got so many colors going on. It's like, whoa, where am I looking at? It kind of feels overwhelming, and it's just so many distractions.
And where did the guy go?
Just kidding. He couldn't handle it. He's like, I'm going back in. These colors are too much.
Are too much for me. Even.
So definitely,
I'm out.
A big change.
Wow.
From this,
I'm super excited about that.
To this.
Seriously, you painted this whole scene. I want to do this photos. You're doing this with video.
Yeah, that's the beauty of After Effects. And productions, they make all the difference. And movies really know that. Everything is so deliberate in movies. Even if you're an exterior in a street, and all the colors are the parked cars are actually handpicked to be a certain color. so you don't
Okay.
have a random red car or something that's too distracting.
Wow. I mean-
wardrobe. I mean, all this stuff is very deliberate. And of course, we don't have the budget to do that. Like, I can't really lock down a street and pick what everyone's wearing, what cars are there, and what signs are, all that stuff. But you can do that in After Effects with some, again, same techniques that we saw today, but just applied with color palettes in mind and color harmonies in mind.
And this is huge. I mean, I'm just coming from sort of a graphic design perspective. I know video is the next thing. If you're taking photos, like I could imagine, I want everybody who's using Photoshop to tune into this,
Yeah.
to do this sort of thing to video footage that we know that they're taking on their phone and all this fun stuff. So
Yeah, exactly. You
even
can-
who the next Instagram could be a video version of Instagram. We don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows? Like something like that.
No,
in terms
absolutely.
of
It really opens
making
up
things look good.
possibilities for this.
Yeah, awesome.
What time is tomorrow's lesson? Same as today.
Same
Same
as
as
today.
11 a.m.
Diving
Pacific time.
deeper, sneak preview. I like
Yeah.
it. I like we have Vinson Nguyen up next, who's going to be doing some awesome scripting. Super excited about that. Apparently, he wasn't in Austin. At least he was here the whole time. Freaked us out earlier. It's like, hey, I'm in Austin. No, he's right in front of us. Give us a second to kind of plug in some cables and move some things around, guys. Awesome. Chris Torini, good job, man.
Thank
We're
you.
looking forward to
Thank
seeing you
you.
tomorrow as well. So
I'm
tune in.
excited. Yeah.
Okay, so to tune in as well, just click that link, obviously, in the description. That's going to take you to the next video stream, so just join us there. Super excited about this next one, guys, so thanks so much.
Thank you guys. Thank you for
See you,
watching.
Paul, Romulo, Jan.
Bye, everyone.